Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And Democrats are already playing the blame game. A senior Harris campaign official told Fox on Tuesday night there were problems from the start, including with how the campaign was organized and the choice of the relatively low-profile Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. But some of those same officials also point out Harris had an uphill battle. She took over the campaign when President Biden dropped out and was forced to run as a change candidate while struggling to articulate what she would do differently than Biden. It is also worth noting that only two sitting vice presidents have ever won the Oval Office, Martin Van Buren in 1836 and George Herbert Walker Bush in 1988. Harris was hoping to be the third. Now we will see what her plans are moving forward. That is a live look at Howard University, where Vice President Harris went to college. It was the scene of her party last night in Washington, D.C., but with the race close, she decided to call it a night before coming out to speak to her supporters. We understand a large crowd has gathered there on the campus of Howard University, and Fox's Connor Hansen is live on the Howard campus. Connor, what's the scene there?
Mike, there are hundreds of people here again at Howard University gathered to listen to Vice President Harris's remarks. We do know that the Vice President is here on campus. We're expecting her remarks to be brief today, but it's been a dramatic mood shift from last night. It was really a party atmosphere here, music playing, people dancing, celebrating, watching those returns come in. But we could see the change in the tone as those returns you mentioned started to show an unlikely path to victory for the Vice President. So again, hundreds of people here. There could be a slight delay. We did hear a couple of minutes ago one of the announcers asked for a medic near the stage. We're not sure if that's going to delay the remarks from Vice President Harris. We haven't heard anything really from Vice President Harris really throughout since yesterday. We do know she called President-elect Donald Trump to congratulate him, speak to him. President Biden called Trump as well, inviting him for a sit-down in-person meeting at the White House. We're also expecting to hear from President Biden delivering remarks to the nation about those election results and the transition of power. So a lot still to be seen here today, and what the Vice President will say. We're being told now that there is a 5-minute warning for the Vice President's remarks. Now, this is a crowd of mostly young people. We are on Howard's campus. This is her alma mater. So it seems as though the President thought this would be important to come and speak to these people in person. She could have done her remarks from the Naval Observatory or somewhere else. So we'll be watching to see when she comes up and exactly what she has to say. But again, we're expecting those remarks to be brief. Mike.
Connor, I'm struck by the crowd. Obviously, last night when the election was still going and they thought perhaps it was a victory celebration, I understood a large crowd at that point. But here we are the next day, and we know that she's lost the election. She's conceded the race to former President Trump. What's the mood like with the crowd there?
There is music playing, and there is, some excitement in the crowd, but it is nothing like the atmosphere you mentioned last night that almost felt like a victory celebration before we started to see those returns come in and it take a turn towards President-elect Trump. But you could tell as these people start to cheer here behind me, it appears that might be Governor Tim Walz entering the crowd there, receiving a warm response from all of his supporters, so he'll be here as well. Unclear if he'll be speaking, but he has just entered the building. So people still cheering, but very much a different tone from last night.
And Connor, as you mentioned, Vice President Harris attended Howard University, a predominantly African-American university here in our nation's capital, clearly feeling like it was important to go back to her alma mater and perhaps inspire a next generation of public servants, right?
That's right, and we did hear from some students here. Obviously, a lot of them are very disappointed. They came here to celebrate a victory and celebrate history, really, but that obviously did not happen. There were students, though, who we heard from saying this still does give them hope for the future, and they're hopeful to see something like this happen again. And here we go, the Vice President coming out right now. Mike.
All right. Let's go live to the podium. That's Connor Hansen live at Howard University. And as we see, the stage is set. Vice President Kamala Harris walking out to greet her supporters after a disappointing election loss. Let's go live to Howard University and listen in to Vice President Kamala Harris.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting. To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. To Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves, to the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran, and the way we ran it, over the 107 days of this campaign. We have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up. I will never give up the fight for a future where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations, where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do. We will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, we will never give up the fight for our democracy, for the rule of law, for equal justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld. And we will continue to wage this fight in the voting booth, in the courts, and in the public square. And we will also wage it in quieter ways, in how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect, by looking in the face of a stranger and seeing a neighbor, by always using our strength to lift people up, to fight for the dignity that all people deserve. The fight for our freedom will take hard work, but like I always say, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And the fight for our country is always worth it. It is always worth it. To the young people who are watching, it is, I love you. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before. You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times in their lives. People who had suffered great harm and great pain, and yet found within themselves the strength and the courage and the resolve to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice, to fight for themselves, to fight for others. So let their courage be our inspiration. Let their determination be our charge. And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. HU. And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.